afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So my name is Patrick Stewart, Regional Vice President with Penrose. I have the great honor of kicking things off today as we celebrate commencement of the next phases of the Uplands redevelopment. Thank you all so much for being here. We've been sort of joking that I'll personally take full credit for the weather. So I prepared some notes, bear with me. There's a lot to be said on a day like this, particularly with a project of this history. To quote Sam Cooke, it's been a long, long time coming. Hard to believe that Penrose and our partners began this journey in the late 2000s when the Uplands Visionaries team was fortunate enough to be chosen to lead this important redevelopment and implement a new plan, a new vision for Uplands. Many of you remember the old Uplands, over 900 subsidized apartments that fell into disrepair. The old affordable housing model were foreclosed on, subsequently demolished. Believe it or not, I actually remember it too. About 20 years ago, I was just telling Mayor Scott, I worked briefly as a community organizer in Edmondson Village and remember driving through the old Uplands. I mean, literally a ghost town. Boarded up, I said to myself, I want to be a part of reinventing places like that. So just on a personal level, I feel extremely fortunate that I can kind of come full circle and be standing here today and celebrating this. And also, you know, if anyone feels a little dated thinking back to the beginning of this project, you're not alone. In retrospect, that seems like a long time. You think back over a period of 10, 15 years, but when you look at the scale of what we're taking on here, it really isn't. A site that's more than 60 acres, literally an entire neighborhood. During that time, we endured a housing bust, the subsequent Great Recession. Not trying to do a history lesson here, but you know, we kept pushing. We faced funding shortages, delaying these phases for years, but kept pushing. All the uncertainty and challenges and disruption of the last 3 years, particularly with the global COVID pandemic. But we, our partners, our friends, our allies at the city of Baltimore and the state and the federal level kept on pushing. And the progress, while not complete, is visible and real. The first rental phase with over 100 mixed income apartment homes was done. The first home ownership phase with nearly 200 for sale single family homes, and townhouses, both affordable and market rate, are complete, bringing some of the first brand new homes to this part of Baltimore in decades. Acres and acres of new public and private infrastructure and open space. And so now phase 2, under construction, will bring 150 brand new high quality apartment homes on the forefront of the site, facing Edmondson Avenue, that visible sign of progress, affordable and workforce, with access to the clubhouse that we built in phase 1, 2 new playgrounds, Energy Star and NGBS certified, developed through a complex twinning structure. Not trying to give Tiffany and Avi flashbacks on that, but utilizing a combination of 4% tax credits and tax exempt bonds, and 9% competitive tax credits in 2 legally separate but concurrent phases. Let's just say double the fun. And it goes beyond phase 2. The infrastructure underway, being undertaken by Harkins and their team around us, will also support the next phase of home ownership, bringing more households to West Baltimore to establish roots and be part of the neighborhood and the city's future. Next door, plans are moving forward for a mixed-use development on the vacant site next to the West Side Skills Center. Market rate apartments, retail, LOIs executed with what I sort of like to call a global coffee brand, Starbucks, and a major bank in PNC. So the cornerstone's there for future progress, and we are working on making that happen to close next year. So as we look around today, we see all those pieces coming together, and the impact of this goes well beyond the boundaries of Uplands. What we accomplished here positively impacts all of our neighbors: Edmondson Village, Allendale, 10 Hills, Rognall Heights, Hunting Ridge. It means momentum, what can be seen with the recent purchase of the troubled Edmondson Village Shopping Center. I know there's some challenges, but they're working on it. It means more families that can afford to live in a neighborhood of choice, more residents to support local businesses, more children with access to 21st century schools, Wildwood and Mary Rodman. So a ton to celebrate, and that's an understatement. And I also want to say, so many people who helped make it happen. I'm going to take time at the end to hopefully thank everybody, and I probably won't succeed, so I apologize in advance. But before I move on to speakers, I want to say a couple words about partnership. Partnership is a bedrock of our success at Penrose in so many ways. We recognize that. Going back to the origins of this project, the late 2000s. In many ways, Penrose, at that point, even though we'd been around it for about 30 or so years, we were kind of the new kid on the block in Baltimore. And for that reason, we were fortunate to be able to enter into a rock-solid and lasting partnership with a group of local leaders and entrepreneurs to form Uplands Visionaries, LLC. And I want to mention the Honorable Wayne Curry. Rest in peace. We all wish he could be here with us to celebrate. Dean Harrison, who I know is here today, Kevin Johnson, who is not able to be with us today, Michael Cryer, and now with the recent addition of Uplands Community Association, our community-based partner. And I also see Mike Little in the audience who's partnering with us on Phase 2B. So on behalf of Penrose, our deepest and most sincere gratitude to our partners for staying the course with us. We couldn't have done any of this without you. So with that, I want to move on and start giving time to our important VIPs and our speakers who have given their time to be with us today. Our first one, Jake Day, Secretary of Maryland Department of Housing Community Development. Twice in a month, I feel like we must be doing something right. We're really excited to have Jake again with us today, and really excited about his new role leading Maryland's Department of Housing Community Development. The energy he brings to this role, his fresh perspective, his background, his passion for developing solutions to revitalizing neighborhoods and cities are immensely valuable, and we appreciate it. He takes the reins at a challenging time for the department, but in a couple short months has shown that he's more than up to the challenge. Thank you, Jake, and welcome. Jake Day, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Housing Community Development.
Well, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here with you, and I want to say congratulations to Penrose Management and to Harkins Builders on this tremendous project, and all of the team that worked incredibly hard on this project. You know, Mayor, it's a pleasure to be in your city. I am always proud to be here in Baltimore, and that's going to be a theme that you're going to hear from me today and again. So my name is Jake Day. I'm the Secretary of Housing and Community Development for the state of Maryland. And over the past few months, I have traveled across this state and listened to public officials and community leaders and developers, builders, talk about how they want to create solutions to Maryland's immense housing challenges. You know, we're facing a shortage of 120,000 housing units in this state. That will take us 15 years to build out if we build at the current pace. We obviously have to expedite. And when we do, we have to take great care to build lovable, beautiful neighborhoods and homes. In the past, we haven't always done that. That's a consideration that has led to negative public perception about what we mean when we build affordable housing and what we mean when the government invests. And so when people question past government action, and they've got good reason to do so, they've got good reason, we've got to examine what we are doing and how we are looking at past decisions. Past decisions of government have led to examples of government capitalizing and recapitalizing on those past investments in such a way that have led to disinvestment in the same neighborhoods. They have led to poorer government investment in other neighborhoods. When we talk about redlining, when you think about urban highway programs, when you think about urban renewal programs, these have been layered investments and layered decisions that have over and over done damage to cities like Baltimore and communities throughout this state. And there's no other way to put it, that those are racist policy decisions of the past that have become cemented over time. And it's going to take our collective and deliberate action to undo those policy decisions. The Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development intends to be a leader and a partner alongside you, Baltimore. And planned communities like Uplands are an example of that type of work. For the second phase of Uplands, the department has provided close to $30 million in investment. And that ongoing effort proves that we are going to make decisions that will ultimately put a roof over the heads of every Maryland family and everyone that wants to be in this state. We will demonstrate that large redevelopment initiatives, when partnered with local government, can be meaningful and impactful. And we'll produce well-designed, energy-efficient homes where residents feel safe and can live with dignity. I think this is what it's going to require for us to build aesthetically, economically, and socially successful neighborhoods. So I've inherited an organization as secretary with a dedicated, experienced team that does incredible work. I want to shout out Greg Hare, who is now the permanent, as of just a few weeks ago, the permanent Assistant Secretary and Director of CDA. Greg, stand up for a second. Greg leads an incredible team, and I know we have a couple of members of that team. Would they please stand up? Dana? Dana, thank you. I know you underwrote this project, did you not? It's a big lift. A lot of effort goes into every single project, so I want to say thank you to that team. And none of this happens alone. It's not just one agency, obviously, but I'm so happy to be here with a number of partners, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, Councilman. I know it takes partnership from the public and private sectors. So look, I lay my head every night at home in Salisbury, but I want you to know that Baltimore is never far from my mind. All this month, I've been touring parts of the city. Yesterday, I was with Commissioner Kennedy, who fed me an incredible lunch that included crab chips. So thank you. It's like you did your research, Commissioner, and I'll make sure that favor is returned. But it won't stop with tours. I have and intend to spend at least one day every single week in Baltimore City for the entire tenure that I am lucky enough to have this job. Maryland is poised. I mean that. Maryland is poised for success, and the quickest way to success is through the heart of this state, and that is Baltimore City. This is Baltimore's era. We're going to be your partner, and I look forward to continuing to celebrate moments like this. Thank you all so very much.
So my apologies that we did not have crab chips today for everybody. Our next speaker obviously needs no introduction. As someone who spent years on Baltimore City Council in the trenches fighting for his district, he brings that same focus, commitment, vision, leadership in his role as mayor, serving the entire city and its residents. I'll mention it elsewhere, but the COVID pandemic and all of the challenges it created really could have meant the end of this project, if not for the mayor's administration taking advantage of the ARPA opportunity in particular to keep the momentum going, to help us get it across the finish line. So at Uplands and so many other deserving initiatives around the city, $12 million in funding to help make happen what you're seeing going on behind you, which, hard to believe, we gathered I think it was just shy of a year ago on this site to celebrate, and now are honored to have Mayor Scott back with us to celebrate its impact being realized. Thank you, Mayor Scott.
Thank you, Patrick. Good afternoon. We're a little down today. We're talking about progress. Patrick said, Sam Cooke said, it's been a long time coming, but the end says that a change is going to come. The change is here in Uplands, right before us, right? This is a great day for Baltimore. And let me say very clearly that it has been well worth the wait. Patrick talked about the beginning of Uplands. As I told him, it started in 2003. Which just happened to be my first year in college, so that tells you how long this project has been going forward. But we know that we've been through so much. We have been through a recession. We've been through turmoil. We've been through a pandemic that we thought was going to break the world. But we persevered, as we always do in Baltimore, by never giving up, by never giving up hope, by staying connected together for what's right for our communities. And that's what we're doing here in Uplands today. Mr. Secretary, we know that you love Salisbury, and you can tell how important day this is. You got not one but two mayors at the groundbreaking. But if you just want to move and cut down on the commute time, we got office space downtown. We know the state's moving a lot. We can have you. We got apartments. You can come in Uplands in a couple of years. Whatever you want to do, we can keep you in Baltimore 7 days a week, maybe 5, and spend 2 in Salisbury. We can flip it. And Mr. Councilman, thank you so much as always. We know the councilman has been a staunch supporter of this project and this community, and thank you for welcoming into your district. And Mr. President, thank you for always being a partner in this work. And you're sitting next to the mayor of Uplands. Mr. Mayor, how are you today? Thank you for having us. There are so many people that have helped us get to this point. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Patrick and the entire Penrose team for not just what they do in Uplands, but for believing and betting on Baltimore every day. They consistently are looking for ways to help us build the best Baltimore, and we want to thank them. We want to thank Harkins. We want to thank everybody that has played a hand in making sure that we continue this project. But I want to mention our city agencies, and I'm going to start with Commissioner Kennedy and our team at Housing, who has done a great job. Everybody, City Police Department, DPW, Transportation, Planning, everybody that has played a portion from a city's perspective into making sure that this project got to this point. And Mr. Councilman, you know it wouldn't be me if I didn't remind you that when you think about a project like this, you have to think of it as like a relay race. And you know, to get it over the finish line, you have to give it to the anchor leg. And if you want to give it to an anchor leg in Baltimore, the anchor leg should be from Mervo. That's why we're here today. That's why we're here today, because we have gotten us to this point. You say, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Did you say what you say? You said Edmondson. Well, I know Katrina is here today, but as she know, I had to tell her. I forgot that Edmondson had a track team until the race was over. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're not going to talk about that today. But I'd be very remiss if I didn't thank our director of the Mayor's Office of Recovery Program, Shemai Kearney, and her team for working with Alice and Patrick and their team for that $12 million investment. Like you heard from Patrick, this did not have to happen today. Projects around the country that had started many, many moons ago ended during the pandemic. Gone, never to be finished. Things and visions and hopes and dreams to be left undone, and really dreams that were crushed by the COVID-19 pandemic. But because we stayed connected, because we stayed focused, because we knew how important this project is, not just to Southwest Baltimore, but to the future of Baltimore, we stayed fast. And when you think about the total investment that the city has made into this project, which is $29 million, and when you add on to that the $8 million, Patrick, that we're investing to make sure that the Emerson Village Shopping Center looks like something and not what it looks like today, you're talking about a $37 million investment in just this block of Emerson Village. That shows that we are serious about building back, Mr. President, in our middle neighborhoods, that we are serious about creating affordable home ownership and rental opportunities for people in our neighborhoods, and that we're serious about partnering with any and everyone who wants to make Baltimore the best version of itself. That's what this project represents. It represents a new day for Baltimoreans, a new day for Southwest Baltimore, where Emerson Avenue is not looked at something that you try to get on and get off of, but something that you look forward to getting on and staying on, because it's a place where people want to live, where people want to shop, where people want to come with their children and families like they did many moons ago. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for remaining committed to this project, and thank you for saying that you know that Baltimore truly is the greatest city in America, and that our renaissance, Mr. President, isn't on the horizon, that is right before us each and every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Good segue. $37 million, which is instrumental, and we appreciate. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, every one of those dollars has to go through the Board of Estimates. And so our next speaker, we are honored to have Council President Nick Mosby. I will say one of the things that impresses me is that we see a little bit of the sort of collegiality and the partnership among the mayor, members of City Council, Council President, and knowing that even though this isn't Council President Mosby's district, he is 100% behind progress in Baltimore. We're fortunate to have had a relationship between Penrose and him for last several years, I think, going back to our first projects in Baltimore. So we deeply appreciate your leadership and your commitment. Thank you, Council President Mosby.
Thank you, Patrick. First and foremost, Mr. Mayor, I know he will agree with this 110%. The level of commitment and partnership that the city of Baltimore has today with Annapolis, I would say, might be unmatched. For us to have a sitting secretary of housing who's directly connected to the motivation of our governor in Westmore, talk about the importance of undoing some of the negative policies and history that has shaped the communities that we know of today as in East and West Baltimore is so amazing. So that is not the first time I've heard Secretary Day say that. And you know what, Mr. Mayor? I know it's not the last time I'll hear Secretary Day say that. So thank you, Secretary Day. From the leaders of Baltimore City, I know that the mayor, I know that Councilman Burnett feel the same exact way. But to have the level of commitment that we have in Annapolis is unparalleled and unprecedented. And we truly, truly appreciate it and do not take it for granted for 1 second. I won't be long, but we stand here, Brandon, and this is a long time coming, but we're here. And what the noise behind us and the dust plumes and the smoke and the hard work, what we see behind us is a commitment of public-private partnership. And we know that it's critically important for that level of commitment to work together. Now, you're not going to always see me and Brandon agree on every single thing. But that's not the way government works. Government works where, in partnership, there are levels of disagreement, there's levels of discontent, but there's always a partnership. And Brandon is my brother. He's my brother through government. And when we talk about projects like this and we talk about the interests of our communities, we understand and know that it's going to be little Brandons that get to grow up in this community right here. A mixed income community. A community with a tremendous amount of assets and resources to the community. A community where that little boy's mom or father gets to go home at night and put that key in the door and turn it and know that all the stress that has been on them, be it through transit, be it through the school, be it through the job, is released because they have a home to rest and lay their head. That is exactly what we do when we build strong communities. It's building the fabric of strong families, which will build the fabric and trajectory and growth that we have right here in the city of Baltimore. That's why projects like this, we cannot take lightly. I mean, when we talk about the level of funding, Madam Commissioner, the $29 million, the commitment that the city has poured into this, it's for a reason. And that's because this administration, through the leadership of Brandon, through the leadership Mayor Scott, through the leadership of Madam Commissioner, is serious about redeveloping, rebuilding mixed income, mixed use communities. So this is an exciting thing for each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Penrose. Thank you, Secretary. And thank you to all the leaders that had anything to do with this project.
Thank you, Council President. Our next guest is somebody who I'm just impressed with the extent to which he is there, accessible, listens, particularly in a time, and I don't mean at a local level, but nationally. There's a time of some political tension, conflict seemingly everywhere. Our next guest exemplifies so many admirable qualities that we want in our elected leaders, and that accessibility, being there when we encounter a roadblock, or to provide guidance on who we should be talking to and who we should be touching within the community, and what kinds of concerns we need to be prioritizing as we proceed with this important redevelopment in his district and his backyard. He's down to earth, humble. He cares deeply about his work and is obviously passionate about doing the right thing by his stakeholders and constituents. And he's been with us along the way on this important journey. We thank you, Councilmember Burnett. So welcome you up to the stage.
Boy, man, I'm trying to think about this day many years ago. I didn't think we were going to get here. And, I'm listening to the remarks of those that have come before me, remembering and reflecting on the conversations that I've had with Mr. Smallwood and Ms. Dixon and everybody else across the district about what are you going to do about the Evanston Avenue corridor? I walk in to office in 2017. The red line had been canceled. There was no funding for this project. We didn't have 21st century schools. Didn't know what was going to happen with the shopping center. And sitting here just sort of thinking through how we got to this day, I reflect on a lot of the conversations I had with my late grandmother about walking in faith. You often, when you're walking in faith, you may not necessarily know when you're going to get through the tunnel. There may not be light in the tunnel. There may not be answers that you're looking for. And sometimes in that prayer, you may not get an answer or a response immediately. But you continue to walk forward and walk in faith and walk in determination. And I want to just thank my community leaders, because they've been walking with me this whole time. They've been walking before I got here. They've been pushing and fighting before I was elected, before I moved into this community. And so I stand on their work and their backs in trying to push this forward. And Patrick will tell you, every single funding opportunity that they reached out to me, I'm writing letters, I'm making phone calls, I'm talking to community leaders to try and get support for this particular project, because I know what it means to this corridor. This corridor is the home of blockbusting and redlining and racist housing policies, and the national model that a lot of other cities use to displace black and brown families across and disinvest from black communities. And so there's a lot of history here that matters to so many people in this community that I represent every day. And I took that as marching orders to fight tooth and nail and any opportunity that came forward to try and push and get it done. And I'm thankful for Mayor Scott and Commissioner Kennedy and Council President Mosby. You know, all of these folks rallied behind, and every opportunity, they'll tell you every time they sat down, what is your priority? Edmondson Village. What do you want to see happen? Edmondson Village, Edmondson Avenue, Frederick Avenue. Like, these are the communities that have experienced the most disinvestment, I would argue, in the city of Baltimore, and have so much potential. You know, this is you're sitting on the fourth highest traffic roadway in the city of Baltimore, and every day I count dollars leaving the city or going outside of the community to go somewhere else to have a sit-down meal or a cup of coffee, which you can't do anywhere around here. And so, you know, affordable housing matters to communities. When we're getting calls in my office for people wondering where they're going to stay, fighting landlords because they're living in substandard housing and with no place to go. You know, this matters. And so I'm a little emotional standing here before you, because it took a long time coming. And I didn't have the answers in the beginning on how we were going to get it done, where the money was going to come from, who we were going to ask. And during the pandemic, it got darker. But we kept on walking, we kept on pushing, and we kept on fighting to bring this to fruition. And I'm just thankful for everyone standing here today who's making this happen. I can't wait to sit down in that coffee shop and have a cup. It's going to be so good. And I'm not even a big Starbucks guy. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's going to be the best Starbucks I ever had in my life. Because for me, it tells me that it is possible, even when it doesn't seem probable at the time. And so I'm just thankful to be here. And I don't have any much more to say than that. I'm ready to see the development happen. I'm thankful to hear these trucks brewing and work happening. And you know, when we actually cut the ribbon on these beautiful affordable houses, these apartments, this retail. Man, like it's a big deal, and so just know you have a partner in me and community, Mr. Smallwood, Mr. Mayor of Uplands, in pushing this through, and you know, the sky's the limit for what's next. So we'll keep on working hard for the 8th District and for West Baltimore, and just want to say thank you to the Uplands team, thank you to Housing, Scott administration, and President Mosby, and everybody that has rallied around this project to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Burnett. Really appreciate those words. So our next speaker, I'm going to say, was probably relieved to get her staff back after we closed financing on this project. It's hard to overstate how instrumental the Baltimore City Department of Housing and Community Development, under Commissioner Kennedy's leadership and her entire team, many of whom I see in the crowd today. I'll get to you guys, don't worry. Throughout the entire life of this project, particularly in the last couple of years, again, navigating the funding and approvals process. So I would say, I haven't done the math, I probably should have. Probably Tiffany or Avi knows, but I mean, most dollars that are coming in to support this project somehow make their way through the Department of Housing and Community Development. I don't think people understand how much work goes into figuring out how to put all those pieces together and structure it. And so navigating all the complexities of all the different federal funding sources, again, coming into the project. Commissioner Kennedy and her team have been at the table each and every day. Probably too many phone calls on weekends with Stacy in particular. And if just understatement, but have been a critical part of the project's success. Commissioner Kennedy, thank you. Come on up.
Hi, everybody. This is a really glorious day to be here. Not only is the weather fantastic, there's like a nice cool breeze, the sun's shining, but you know, there's this amazing work that's happening behind us. So on Saturday, you know, I'm driving around the city off like every week in different areas and so forth. And honestly, I hadn't been over here for a couple weeks. And on Saturday, my wife and my daughter and I were driving down the road heading towards the city, and out of the corner of my eye, as we're kind of approaching, kind of around the bend, I see pipes. I see big concrete pipes with a lot of dirt, big machinery that's going to move those pipes, that's going to dig the holes in the pipes. And I start getting really excited in the car. I'm like, okay, we got to turn, like, can we got to get over in traffic. We got to pull over real quick. Can I get a picture? Hey, Ellie, do you have your camera out? Can you like roll down the window and like stick your head out? I think this angle, can you get through that fence right there? Because I need to get a picture of these pipes. I think my wife and daughter thought I was a little crazy. But that goes to, I want to touch on what Councilman Burnett said in terms of the long road that it took to get here today, and the faith that everyone had to stick with it and keep going to ensure that we would be able to be here today and to be able to see those pipes and to be able to see the cats out there and the machinery, ensuring that this next phase can get done. You know, the perseverance, the vision required to stay on track, required to have that faith, and remain committed to providing housing and creating these housing opportunities is critical to Baltimore. But it's even more critical in the post-COVID world that we live in as well. Ensuring that we can build wealth wherever we are. Ensuring that we have safe places for people to stay. You know, this project, the Edmondson Village Shopping Center project, the work that we're doing with partners that Live Baltimore on the Buy Back the Block program, our partnership with the Department of Housing and our middle neighborhood strategy that falls in Edmondson Village, all of this ties together to that larger vision and ties together to staying the course and keeping the strength so that we can see more days like we have seeing here today. We have a lot of partners that got us to this point. You know, there's one in particular that I want to call out right now, and that is HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They have been with us every single step of the way with this project, going back some 20 years ago, when even encouraging the city of Baltimore to purchase the site and provide the funding that was needed to make it possible to move forward with that purchase and to kind of eradicate the poor substandard housing that was here. In particular, I want to thank and acknowledge Bob Iber, who I know is here today, who's been a part of this project since it started. And I want to thank him also for believing in the City Department of Housing and Community Development every single time that we said, we promise we will get there. we will make this happen, and we will move this along. And you are going to actually see a building. You will actually see pipes in the ground, and you will actually see a building. I also want to thank the entire team at HUD's Property Disposition Division, Giovanna Morales, Will Wallace, Adela Escalante, and Taylor Hawes as well. It's the same level of support and commitment, and Stephanie coming in as the local Baltimore Regional Field Director and the team. But this has been, without HUD's part in this as well, we would not be able to do what we needed to do at the City Department of Housing and Community Development to be able to move this project forward. HUD's patience, everyone's patience, actually. The developer, you know, for sticking with it, for also having faith that we would figure out a way to get this done. You know, it has actually gotten us to the day where we're going to be over that finish line. Well, we got to get some more things done. We got to get to the ribbon cutting. And maybe that ribbon cutting should actually be a race based on some of the comments made earlier around a track with like a ribbon and getting over the finish line instead of just cutting a ribbon. I don't know. Okay. So, some ideas I have aren't the best. I also, I also want to thank the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs and Director Shemaya Kearney and her team with Patrick Williams. You know, getting the Uplands agreement done and working that through the ARPA process was actually a huge lift, and being the first one kind of through trying to make sure that we were crossing all of the T's and dotting all the I's and ensuring that this would meet all of the federal guidelines that we needed to do. So I also want to thank them for that work. And Mayor Scott's leadership on this. I know there are several projects when I became acting commissioner and then commissioner, but when I became acting commissioner, Mayor Scott came into leadership. And I know one of the first questions I asked him and let him know was, we have some things out here that we just need to finish because they've been languishing too long, and the impact that they've had on our communities is an impact that is a negative impact that we need to figure out how to solve. And he's been behind this work ever since that conversation and understanding what that is. So also the entire staff at DHCD, every single one of the staff members at DHCD that have also had the faith, continue to push forward and move this forward, from Deputy Commissioner Edwards and Alex Hoffman, and one person in particular that we would not be standing here today if it were not for Stacy Freed. Stacy's perseverance on this project, her understanding of the history of the project, her willingness to take the weekend phone calls with Patrick and the Penrose team and the Uplands Visionaries team, and her understanding of the nuances has really gotten us to this day. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize all of the hardworking members of DHCD, as well as in particular Stacy. And with that, to the community, congratulations, because what you are seeing is part of a large vision that we will continue to strive for, that we will continue to work with you on, to continue to realize that vision and to create housing opportunities for all and thriving, vibrant communities that have all of the resources and all of the things that create standard levels of care for your community so that you can go down the street and get that cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Kennedy. Well said. And I, in particular, I appreciate you getting into so much detail about the role that HUD has played as well as others. So it's a good segue. The next speaker, I'm trying to figure out where to start with this. From my standpoint, as an affordable housing developer, you'd think I would know this, but the HUD landscape at times can be challenging to navigate. They have many different arms, many different offices. For that reason, among other reasons, it's really critical to have a field office locally that has your back, so to speak, and that that is behind the initiatives that you're trying to move forward, has patience, has understanding, and has that view of the long haul. In many ways, the cornerstone of this project from its inception has been, among other things, the availability of HUD upfront grant funds, without which none of this would be possible. But there were so many other pieces, so many other layers. Throughout the years, we've had, I think Commissioner Kennedy alluded to some of this, multiple revisions, amendments, extensions to the various agreements that govern all of these funding sources, and not to mention sort of the program of what's being built out, as we all agreed many years ago. And again, it's been so critical to have support and leadership at the local office field office level. Excuse me. In addition to that, the two rental phases, 2A and 2B, that total 150 units that we talked about, are both taking advantage of HUD's FHA 221D4 financing program, which is really key, particularly in an interest rate environment in the last couple of years where interest rates have been spiking. So to be able to leverage more private financing has been really critical. Our financing partners at M&T Bank had really worked with us to navigate a challenging process with the field office, but we really appreciate it. And with that said, I want to welcome up Stephanie Statz, Director of HUD's Baltimore Field Office. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Commissioner Kennedy, I actually really like the idea of the relay race to the, so, you know, I'm on your side for that one, and look forward to that day. So thank you for that really generous introduction. Thank you for hosting and inviting me to speak. I joined HUD fourth quarter, the end of September 2022. I would be remiss not to acknowledge Bob Iber, who is just a couple rows back over here to my right, who was really instrumental, along with so many other folks here today, and certainly our wonderful dignitaries who are here today as well. So HUD's mission is to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and quality, affordable housing for all. And that includes adding to the housing supply, making home ownership affordable, making affordable rental housing more accessible. And today we see that mission in action here. I so enjoyed the little detour that brought me over this way to get up here and to see the first phase of this community, and then to see the wonderful progress behind us today. And I do understand from Bob and others that it has not been easy to get to this day. It's taken vision, partnership, investment, some calculated leaps of faith, some boldness to get to this moment. So as I said, I just joined HUD about 7 months ago, and some days it feels like it was yesterday, and some days it feels like it's been a lot of years, but it was just 7 months ago. And I came over from a career in community economic development in the nonprofit sector. But Bob, who has been with this project from the beginning, he shared for me what really was an inspirational story as someone who comes from a community economic development background of a 20-year journey with lots of innovation and commitment and tenacity, but not without hurdles and controversy and delays. For example, I think it was 2003, 2004. My understanding, the thinking was it would be about a 36-month project, and I think now we're on about month 156. So it's been a journey for sure. And the vision to create community assets that are place-based, to be part of a surrounding community, adding to an aesthetic, not distracting from it, to create an urban village which had sadly deteriorated into a wasteland, and reclaiming it today, which, you know, I think brings the neighborhood full circle, but better, because this neighborhood didn't start out as a blighted place. And coming full circle and doing it better this time than it had in the beginning, because this time we truly have an inclusive community of mixed income, varying demographics, not homogenous, and that took vision to see the potential. Partnership, we've heard so much about that today, and how critical partnership is, not only between HUD and the city of Baltimore in collaboration with DHCD and many others, stops and starts, creative thinking, the ability and willingness to find innovative solutions, which is so very critical, especially when experiencing all the different hurdles that this project has experienced, not least of which a global pandemic. And finally, investment. HUD also believed in this vision, backing it up with a $22 million upfront grant to support infrastructure and unit construction for affordable housing. On the tax credit side, the project using bifurcation as a tool to preserve place-based housing assistance and leveraging new development. So vision, partnership, investment, you know, this is what creates community revitalization that furthers fair housing, deconcentrates and destigmatizes poverty, and supports HUD's mission to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities for all, using housing as a platform for improving the quality of life. So thank you very much for giving me a few minutes of your time today. Thank you for inviting me. Congratulations. This is just an outstanding day and a wonderful culmination of so many people being so diligent and working so hard. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Stats. Appreciate that. There's been a lot of talk about COVID and the impacts and the challenges and disruptions over the last few years. So obviously, you know, trying to keep these current phases of the project moving forward amid all of that especially the inflation, resulting unprecedented spikes in construction costs, rising interest rates, all of those things conspiring to really threaten progress and completion on this. It was tough. Fortunately, though, that created an opportunity for federal funds through ARPA. The important thing to understand, though, is step one is the announcement of the funds, and then somebody has to figure out how do those dollars actually get into a project like this to translate into shovels moving around and things actually getting built. It is not easy. Are they grant funds? Are they loan funds? You know, what are the requirements? Do they get paid back over what period of time? All of that fun stuff. To Mayor Scott's credit, he set up a mayor's office level office to focus on structuring that and overseeing it, the Mayor's Office of Recovery Program. So our next speaker, Shemaya Kearney, has that enviable role of figuring out all those challenges and putting them into practice. And so without her work, we literally wouldn't be looking at anything moving in the background because we needed those ARPA funds to be able to continue with infrastructure as well as phases 2A and 2B. So thank you to the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs. Thank you to Director Kearney. And come on up.
So if you are as chilly as I am right now, you will appreciate that my remarks are brief. But thank you for the introduction. To the mayor, elected officials, community leaders, business leaders, all of those who have partnered with us, good afternoon. Today isn't just another day, and this isn't just another project, and I think that you all can feel and sense that by the remarks and the sentiments that have been shared by the speakers that came before me. But today we take one more step towards completing another impactful strategic investment in Baltimore's future and Mayor Scott's vision for building a better Baltimore. In March 2022, Mayor Scott and housing advocates and community leaders and partners stood at this same place and announced a historic $100 million investment in housing from the American Rescue Plan Act. Of that $100 million commitment, about $56 million are allocated for the creation of affordable housing. In keeping with that commitment, today we break ground here with the promise of making this land a community of homes to families who deserve quality and affordable housing, and with the vision of creating stronger and stable neighborhoods across Baltimore City. When Baltimore first received ARPA funding, we were still in the midst of a global public health emergency. These funds were provided with the express purpose to help our nation rebound from the negative health and economic impacts from COVID-19 and to prioritize underserved and underinvested communities. And while some may view the public health emergency as over, Mayor Scott and the Recovery Office recognize that there are still individuals and families that are reeling from those negative economic impacts, including a need for affordable housing. As Chief Recovery Officer, it brings me immense joy and fulfillment to see this city bounce back. The resiliency of Baltimoreans has been extraordinary, and in no small part, I believe, due to the leadership and employees and partners of Baltimore City government and the organizations that partner and support us. I look forward to continuing to help lead the charge on the recovery of Charm City and projects such as this that are a step in the right direction. I also want to take a moment of personal privilege to thank all of the small but mighty team members in the Recovery Office. I get to stand here and represent us, and so you may not know their faces and you may not know their names, but they are incredible public servants who come to work every day hoping to make Baltimore a better place. I want to acknowledge Patrick Williams, who is here with me, who has worked tirelessly with the staff and the team at DHCD to bring this project to fruition. I also want to thank Brian Kelly, who was with me also, and say thank you to him for helping us elevate the message about ARPA, despite the negative tone and tenor that sometimes comes along. When you hear stories about ARPA is really making a difference in Baltimore City, and he's helping to elevate that message. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Keep believing and betting in Baltimore, and watch us work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kearney. So I have to look around the audience. Where is David? Oh, it's the sunglasses. One of the things that we are most proud of with this project is not only its positive impact through all the remarks and stories that have been told today, its impact on the community, but that it involves a true partnership with the community, now through the Uplands Community Association. And when I say partner, I mean literally partner. It's important to clarify that. Uplands Community Association is now literally a part owner within the entity that oversees and implements the entire project, so that the success of this redevelopment over time can help support and sustain the community association into the future, and that the success of the Uplands initiative is tied to the success of Uplands Community Association and vice versa, which is the way it should be. And so we're immensely proud and appreciative of having a true community partner at the table. We deeply appreciate, David, your leadership with the association, your willingness to pick up the phone, talk through challenges, flexibility in terms of getting, having us show up last minute to give virtual presentations to the association, and your patience in being there with us to see this through and get to this point. So you've been a pleasure to work with, and we look forward to keeping this process going and celebrating completion. So with that, I want to welcome up David Smallwood, the president of the Uplands Community Association.
Good afternoon to Mayor Scott, City Council President, Councilman Barnett, all the city officials, and the Penrose Development Team. I bring greetings from the Uplands Community Association. This is truly a great day for our community. As it's been said, it's been a long time coming, and we've had peaks and valleys, but we're getting there. What you hear behind us is music to the ears of the residents of Uplands. We've been waiting for so long to have this development come to fruition, and it's happening now. This is personal for me because I grew up in Emerson Village. My parents moved to Emerson Village in 1958. I've been a resident here at Uplands for 33 years, and I'm a proud graduate of Emerson High School. And this is a great day for us. I just want to thank everybody for showing up today. And what got us to this point has been intestinal fortitude, partnerships, and most of all, vision. Because as I say, where there's no vision, the people will perish. And we look around this neighborhood, it's an exciting time now, what's going on with the Emerson Village Shopping Center and everything that's developing. I'm proud to see the redevelopment. And as I said, it's personal for me to see our communities rise up again. When I look behind what's behind you and look and see the development that's happening in our community, we're proud to be members of the Uplands community. And I just want to thank everybody for everything that you're doing and you continue to do. It's a proud day. It really is. And we want to thank Penrose for being partners with the Uplands Community Association. We have forged what we feel is a very harmonious partnership with Penrose. And when I pick up the phone, and I pick it up quite often to call Ms. Sims and Mr. Stewart, but they're responsive. And, working with the councilman, we don't always see eye to eye, but one thing that we do want, councilman, is a better community, and you've proven that that's what you want. And we appreciate your leadership in our community because it's not easy. We went through a lot to get to this point, and I know. So, again, I thank everybody for coming out. We're going to move forward, and let's just be happy with where we are today. And we're proud. We are so, so proud of our community. And I thank the residents of Uplands for coming out and supporting us today as well. Thank you so much. I thank Mr. Stewart and Ms. Sims. I thank you. We do appreciate your work, your hard work. So once again, let's keep it going, and let's move forward. Thank you so, so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. And thank you to everybody in the community, part of the Uplands Community Association.
No love for you. No love for you. No love.